When I see a single child playing with a nanny or a parent, it does make me think in a melancholic way. And not because I didn't have an extraordinarily happy childhood. As a consequence of being an only child, many hours were spent in the company of adults, and I think, therefore, forming relationships with other children was more tricky. I think I might have been seen as less robust when I went to school. I guess the positive is that I love my own company.
Whenever I hear a composition by Debussy, most particularly the Clair de Lune, I'm reminded of my overwhelming desire as a child to be a ballerina dancer in my favoured Cirque du Soleil, although I remember thinking the position of prima ballerina for the Royal Ballet Company in the Royal Opera House would suffice. As a child, I collected porcelain dolls. Because of the way that they moved, their bodies were wired, so they were stiffer, not floppy like other dolls. They felt like little girls, just like me, opposed to baby dolls. They also had beautiful dresses. I used to practice my ballet moves with my dolls, each acting as a different character for me to take turns with. Inevitably, continuously swapping between stories to suit my fancy.
My memories with the swing are when I was really young. I used to come here when I was upset and sing to myself. No one could hear. It was peaceful. When you could hear it in the branches. My family's quite a hectic place. When I was just because of you. No one.
One of my favourite pastimes is lying, soaking in the bath until my toes eventually shrivel like prunes. That moment of acceptance, almost defeat, when I acknowledge that all heat has well and truly left and I am a shivering mess from the chill. I suppose it's because school evenings centred around bath time for me and my two siblings throughout primary school. We were allowed 20 minutes soaking time. Pure joy. Whilst our mother would fuss busily around the bathtub. So many water games were invented, but being the eldest, I practically always won. If I didn't through technique, I would resort to brute force. We carried on sharing baths until it became socially unacceptable to do so. And when that time did come, I used to use all my wishes to ask the greater powers to suspend my growth so that I would still be able to enjoy bath times.
My parents' marriage eventually disintegrated around my 4th birthday. Weekends were spent oscillating between my mother's home in Cambridgeshire and my father's in Lincolnshire. I was known as the limpet by my family friends because I could not bear not to be in physical contact with my mother. To sustain me and suppress this, my mother would fold into my coat pocket one of her silk scarves, drenched in her scent, Chanel No. 5, to accompany me. This immense edifice of memory surfaces occasionally. Personally, I find myself transported into the inner, most rabbit warrens of my involuntary, autobiographical memory at the merest waft of such scent.
We follow the red line. As soon as I smell the heavy fumes of petrol, I'm transported back to when I was 8 years old. I went away to boarding school very reluctantly. I was a solitary child and didn't like the other children. I remember the sense of dread, genuine fear and desperation that I felt in the days leading up to going back after the holidays. It was most miserable when in the car journey on the way. I wished the journey would last forever. It was the hideous sense of having no authority and no independence in this alien, cold environment. The unfairness, I think, really, and the feeling of kind of hopelessness, because there was no way of changing it. I don't know, perhaps slightly more narrowed existence. Humans have this amazing capacity to forget horrible things that have happened to them, and perhaps that's why we remain so optimistic.
I remember hating the time we spent in France, which I had sort of forgotten until last summer when we drove to France once again. It was a very strange sensation. The saturated colours, lighting, the bright flashing lights, enclosed, unusually arranged spaces, the audio speakers, alternating between French and English, reminds me of the tunnel journeys. I remember them so distinctly because it was such a mix of complete excitement, leaving one country and arriving in another within a very short space of time.
Handbrake, thank you.
Engine off, first gear handbrake.
Whenever we're preparing to leave our home for a few days, I can't suppress this particularly vivid car journey we went on. It was the first of many without my elder siblings. I never thought driving somewhere could make you feel so left behind. The world passed me by and I watched the trees and the hills undulate like the body of a colossal dragon bounding along next to the car. The sky did not move, it sat there, looming down on me with calm supremacy, a background of dappled clouds. The tears dried in a stiff trail down my face, making my skin feel tight. I looked at the metal structures encircling the roads, a monotonous cycle of pylons and lights that grow and fade as you leave each one behind.
Whenever I hear a Bruce Springsteen track, it always brings me to dusk on the motorway. I think dusk on the motorway is such a special thing when everyone's going back to their own lives, but their own lives are so self-contained in their own car, you can't ever touch them. Dislocated from my own, but for that one brief interlude, you feel a sense of union. That feeling of being with my family and being so happy and content, and I'm going to be with them for a few hours. My dad playing out Bruce Springsteen music on the long drive home, and just it being such a special weekend all together, and then that complete contentment going home, knowing that I'm never going to get that back ever again, but remembering how it felt to be that close and cherishing those memories.
She woke up from a dream. He was here, he was here. She could tell, she could see. He had nothing in is high. You got nowhere we'll start. Need you loving. Oh,